good evening.
Hi,
How's my
Lisa.
girl? How's my girl Summer?
Oh my gosh, I'm excited. How are you?
I'm so interested in this topic we have going on this evening. I can't even tell you. I'm so interested. This is going to be blowing our minds, and I think it's. I don't even know. We're not going to be able to cram it all into an hour. That's for sure. I know. So
No,
what do you have in store for us? Let's give our introduction. I'm Lisa. I'm one of your co-hosts with my lovely co-host.
I'm Summer, and we are so glad you are here with us tonight. I feel like my brain is going to explode. There has been so much information that I have been just diving into, and I'm sure I've annoyed the crap out of you this week with all my messages like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But when all the dots start to connect, it makes sense. And I think it's very safe to say that the Great Reset is upon us. The New World
Yeah.
Order is being put into place, and we are going to dive into what it is, who it is, um, where, which is global, obviously, and how it's affecting your everyday life. Because I'll be honest, I didn't really know a lot about this. I knew about the World Economic Forum, I knew about the different agendas, but there's a lot of pieces of this that I had no idea that we're all, in sync together. And it makes perfect sense when you actually um, connect the dots. So that's kind of what we're
Yeah.
going to do.
So, I got to tell you about, I don't know, a year and a half or so ago, this is when I sort of found myself digging deeper into this topic and finding out what was in store, what the plan was for life as we know it moving forward, and seeing this whole coronavirus and it being utilized as a front for them walking out this new world order. And so I spent plenty of time doing a lot of research on this topic, but I did stop looking into it at the veracity I was looking into it before, because life's gotten busy, obviously. So I think you've definitely picked up sort of where I left off, and you've probably gotten yourself so knowledgeable on this topic that you likely know a lot more than I do. So I'm super interested to see how far you've come with this. And I'm not going to lie, there were moments in 2021, a few here and there where, knowing what I know about what I had learned, these things, there were moments that dropped me to my knees. And
Yeah.
I had to I would start crying, because I think about my daughter, I think about her future, I think about everybody's kids' future, I think about how many people will be impacted by this going forward, and how do you stop it. And it feels very helpless and suffocating, because it's been sort of in play now for so long, and it feels like it's kind of taken over every facet of our being
Our
so far,
lives.
in life as we know it today.
Yeah.
And you can
And
see
it
it playing
has.
out.
It absolutely has. And it's interesting because what was once a conspiracy is now 100% reality. Klaus Schwab, he even wrote a book, The Great Reset, or COVID-19, The Great Reset. And I did not get to finish it. And I do want to say to Medi, you are so welcome. I am so glad I grabbed you and took you down this rabbit hole, because we've got so many people that are kind of in on this, and all of us are kind of going, oh my gosh, it makes sense. But we
Well,
do have a
hold on.
special guest with us
Hang
who,
on real quick before you introduce, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I want to say how interesting this is with everything that sort of came to fruition this past couple of weeks with Canada and
yeah,
Trudeau last week. And now it's
and
interesting
Russia.
because I'm on social media, and all I see are people talking about World Economic Forum, the Great Reset.
Yep.
The New World Order, the Great Reset, and I'm seeing so many people going, oh wow, people are finally caught up now. Like, now this is a hot topic. Now people are seeing it play out based on what we've seen now transpire, and this is the early stages of where the rubber really meets the road with this topic, I think, is what we're seeing. So yeah, sorry about that, but
No.
surely we do have a guest, and I think this is a very important time to introduce our guest.
Yes. So I'll just give you a little insight. Everybody knows that we're on Twitter quite often, and we are in spaces, and through this whole Canada situation. I have been in a lot of the trucker convoy spaces, and I've learned so much. It's ridiculous. And I really want to thank Bob and our guest Freddie, who's coming on, because they have kind of helped enlighten me with this. And that was what made me start digging. And when I started digging, it just kept leading me to another rabbit hole and another rabbit hole. And, you know, it's very easy to kind of to get overwhelmed with it. And I'll be honest, I kind of have. I feel like I have so much in my brain that it hurts. But Freddie, why don't you come on with us really quick? And how are
Hey
you?
there.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us tonight on A New Perspective. We're happy to have you as our guest. We're very interested in what you have to say to us and share with our audience all of the information that you've gotten regarding this topic, this very relevant topic.
Well, thanks for having me. And the book I read, most of it, and it's very disturbing. And yes, it is. The WEF is. They're very much pulling these strings. And
before we get going on that, Freddie, do you want to tell us who you are? Give a little introduction to yourself. Yeah, let's share with our audience. Who is Freddie?
A lot of people might know you, but they haven't seen your face like this.
Yeah. I'm Freddie. I'm 43, divorced. I have 2 lovely, beautiful children. I'm an auto worker by trade, and so I've been, worked for Ford for over 23 years. Awesome. But knowledge and history was always a passion of mine. So, and I got involved with the. Everybody thinks I'm Canadian. I'm not. I'm from the States, but I got involved to help out a friend and do research and data for them. And so
awesome.
And then that's what led me down to, like Summer said, the rabbit holes of it's this and this and this and this and that.
Yeah. You could really get lost in this information. There's so much of it.
It's never ending.
Never ending. So why don't we start at the beginning, Freddie? This is what I know so far about all of this is that this gentleman, Klaus Schwab, who was born in Germany, his dad made, was it weapons for the Nazis?
He was an engineer.
He's an engineer.
Basically.
Yep. And he decided to start this organization, this nonprofit organization back in 1971.
Yes.
And it was the World Economic Forum. And No?
It was the European.
Oh, yes.
It had a different name to it, the European Forum.
It was the it was something European, but it wasn't named the WEF until 1986.
Right. Sorry. You're right. I even had that down. My bad. See, I'm glad you're here to be my fact checker. So basically, tell us what you know about what this World Economic Forum is and at the beginning stages of it.
The beginning stages, he's always had his agenda, and he was a professor, so he got a lot of juice and power and, of course, money to start that forum in the 70s and then switch it over, and then it turns into the globalist. And, I'm no conspiracy theorist. So that's when it turned into like gathering all the big names that everybody well knows, especially here in the States, Gates and
Clinton's daughter.
The list goes.
Justin Trudeau. We've got
generations. Yes.
It goes on and on and on. Everybody's involved in this.
Everybody is involved in this at some point in history. Like somebody big is involved in this. That was what was interesting to me.
And then Tulsi Gabbard.
We'll get to that in 2 seconds.
Yeah. Everybody.
So in 1992, that was when he started this institution, the Global Leaders for Tomorrow School. And this is something that is new to me. I didn't know about this. And then in 2004, he reestablished it as the Young Global Leaders, which is what it is today. And if anybody is watching and is not sure, I highly recommend just taking some notes, just keywords like what we're talking about, because there's so much. You can just go and look at their websites, and it will take you to probably what you never want to see again.
Well, to touch on the school they all went to, if you pay attention to like Trudeau or Biden or Boris or Angela Merkel got Das Boot,
Yep.
but they have the same Freudian slips, the same mannerisms, and it's all the same rhetoric.
It's all
not
the
hard to-
same rhetoric.
It's not hard to snuff out.
Well, and here's what's interesting is that this is not just politicians. They are infiltrated with the media, celebrities, global leaders, and basically what they have done, what he has done, what Klaus Schwab has been able to do is to create this group of people that are then infiltrated into different parts of society, and they have a lot of influence on our lives behind the scenes that we really didn't even know about. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people that knew about it, but I'll say myself didn't really know about it. And when you look at the people involved, it makes sense, especially when we move into COVID-19 and 2020, where, it started and how they did all this leading up to where we are. So these are some names I think that need to be established here. Tony Blair, Dan Crenshaw, Jacinda, is it Ardern, the New Zealand Prime Minister, Gavin Newsom, Angela Merkel, Pete Buttigieg, Justin Trudeau, Chelsea Clinton, Jeff Bezos, let's see, the President of France, Richard Branson, BlackRock's Larry Fink. And we could go on and on
BlackRock
and
is
on.
a big foundation of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are. Which is
And they have a lot
interesting.
to do with this, don't they? They have a whole lot to do with this movement as far as the housing situation goes, as we see it playing out.
Correct.
Yes, they do.
And
So
they're not buying up houses. They're here in the States, because I know this is probably international, and I know there's some Canadians. I heard you mention Mehdi, and he's in Maine. He's close to Canada. He follows me too. But they're not just buying a house here or there. They're buying whole subdivisions.
Cities,
Yes,
really.
they are.
That's what it's
Yeah.
called. They're basically
And they're out.
sweeping through and grabbing every bank-owned property, paying cash well above market value to sort of snuff out and push out the little guy. So we're not seeing enough houses on the market. And what we do see, people are paying like an astronomical amount over market value and having to pay cash for that. But that's a whole other topic. Let's
Okay.
bring it on back.
Okay.
Bring it on back.
Okay.
we'll get into that later. Or
But
on a
do
different
you
show.
want to start? You want to go back to the vid or no?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to show this video.
Yes. So this was back in 2018. And this just kind of gives you an insight as to what their future plans are for us.
Oh
Now,
boy.
in the past, many tyrants and governments wanted to do it, but nobody understood biology well enough. And nobody had enough computing power and data to hack millions of people. Neither the Gestapo nor the KGB could do it. But soon, at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people. We humans should get used to the idea that we are no longer mysterious souls. We are now hackable animals. Data might enable human elites to do something even more radical than just build digital dictatorships. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it. And if indeed we succeed in hacking and engineering life, this will be not just the greatest revolution in the history of humanity. This will be the greatest revolution in biology since the very beginning of life 4 billion years ago. For 4 billion years, nothing fundamental changed in the basic rules of the game of life. All of life, for 4 billion years, dinosaurs, amoebas, tomatoes, humans, all of life was subject to the laws of natural selection and to the laws of organic biochemistry. But this is now about to change. Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds, but our intelligent design and the intelligent design of our clouds, the IBM cloud, the Microsoft cloud. These are the new driving forces of evolution. And at the same time, science may enable life, after being confined for 4 billion years to the limited realm of organic compounds, science may enable life to break out into the inorganic realm. So after 4 billion years of organic life shaped by natural selection, we are entering the era of inorganic life shaped by intelligent design. So does the data about my DNA, my brain, my body, my life, does it belong to me or to some corporation or to the government or perhaps to the human collective? Humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, you know, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over. Free will, that's over.
That's over.
Over. Today, we have the technology to hack human beings on a massive scale. Yeah, I mean, everything is being digitalized. Everything is being monitored. In this time of crisis, you have to follow science. It's often said that you should never allow a good crisis to go to waste, because a crisis is an opportunity to also do good reforms that in normal times people will never agree to. But in a crisis, you see, we have no chance. So let's do it.
Vaccine won't help us go
The
to the
vaccine
test, of course.
will help us, of course. It will make things, you know, more manageable.
Surveillance, people could look back in 100 years and identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin, which I think is maybe the most important development of the 21st century, is this ability to hack human beings, to go under the skin, collect biometric data, analyze it, and understand people better than they understand themselves. This, I believe, is maybe the most important event of the 21st century.
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us.
The difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you. If you take a genetic editing, right, just as an example, it's you who are changed. And of course, this has a big impact on your identity.
Yeah. And offers certain kinds of possibilities that have to be careful about. You know, when you began to do that kind of gene editing, some people worried that you were changing what it means to be human.
That's the problem. And, of course, the new industrial revolution offers us many opportunities, but it raises manifold questions on the ethical, but even legal implications. And we have to be prepared for it. And that's what we want to do in Davos next year.
Talk about technology and how the ways it can be deployed, you know, that contribute to growth rather than exacerbate unemployment. How will that implement itself?
It's a big question mark because there is a fear that technology, robots, just to take one
Yeah, you gain
element.
productivity from machines.
Exactly, and it replaces maybe the workforce or jobs faster than we can replace them with new jobs. Not everybody can be a robot polisher and so
Yes,
on, so
yes.
there will be new jobs.
Oh boy. Who elected this man? Who elected him? I think the one thing that sticks out to me is what he says that they want to do under our skin. And this all goes back to the vaccines. And the only way that they really truly are able to do this is to get under our skin. And there's only one way to do that, and that is through a vaccine. And we are seeing that right now. And I think that this is an important thing to kind of segue into, is that he wrote a book in 2020 called COVID-19, The Great Reset. And what I thought was really fascinating, just into the forward of the book, is he said, life as we knew it, and he called it BC, before COVID, is gone. It will never be the same. It will be considered post, or moving forward. And I am telling you, this is scary. They want to basically eliminate Homo sapiens. They want to create a human. This man is obsessed with transhumanism. Another interesting fact, he's also a germaphobe, and to the extreme, which I say that because when you think about what happened with COVID, what was it all about? Social distancing, not touching things, excessive hand washing, all of these little things that may sound like, oh, that's kind of silly. It all makes sense when you connect the dots with where we are today. And I think it's important that especially parents realize what this is and what they want to do with our children. And Freddie, what do you think about that? Like, as far as the whole transhumanism thing, the vaccines, what are your thoughts on this one?
That video said quite a bit of it. That's it. It's whatever you thought you do is gone, and they want to inject us. We are the guinea pigs for this vaccine. But what they did is, everybody thinks COVID-19 is named that because it came out in 2019. No, it started a few decades ago.
Yes, it did.
And it's there's COVID-1 that started from MRSA and swine flu and bird flu and all that, and Ebola, and they keep all these they keep all these diseases frozen so they can lay the foundation to learn from them, not being pessimistic, but they keep them to learn from them for decades and decades. And then that's how they lay the foundation. That's how they got to fast track this vaccine. But the trials and stuff, FDA usually takes 10 to 12 years to approve something. But when they call it an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And we're getting word that, it was just found to have an identical genetic sequence match. The COVID-19 disease itself was matched to a Moderna patent from 2016 that just broke yesterday, if I remember correctly. But I agree with you. I think Ebola, I think H1N1, I think every would-be near scare pandemic that's erupted over the last, 2 decades or so has been sort of beta test to see how society reacts to this. What changes? How does society react? And so we've got these gatekeepers, these masters, these puppet masters that are sort of dangling the idea of, if you do this, you can have this back. If you do this, you can have this back. And people are eating it up. They're lapping it up because, we want to get back to normal. We want to get back to normal. So they'll just continually keep complying, and they'll comply all their freedoms away without a thought about it. So, and this is exactly what they're reaching for. This is exactly what they're wanting to do. It's working for them We're
Yes, it
letting
is.
them get away with it. And the scary part is if we look around, we've already got AI all around us. It's infiltrated us. It's our phones. They're tracking us. It's our devices within our home. It's our computers. It's our television sets. It's our Alexas. It's our stereos. It's our cars. It's Bluetooth. It's Wi-Fi. It's 5G. It's uploading, and it's right here, right now. And this is the weapon. We're paying for the weapons they're using on us. That's exactly
Absolutely.
what's happening.
Well,
And
and when
so they
when
plan
you
on
look
this.
when you look at some of the partners, and I'm just going to pull this up and give you kind of the website, but you can go to it's weforum.org, and then you just go down to the partners and just go and look at the companies. Moderna, Johnson and Johnson, who are the big players in all? Pfizer,
AstraZeneca, Pfizer,
AstraZeneca,
Moderna, all of them.
Johns Hopkins,
Mhm.
Abbott, which Abbott is a big supplier of the COVID tests. It blew my mind when I'm looking at this because it made sense. Everything started to come together. Amazon, what were some of the other big companies? There's just a ton of companies.
Oh.
And what's interesting is a lot of those companies were the ones that were allowed, they were deemed essential
They're essential.
during, yep.
And
Well,
they
I
were
know,
given
we know
all
why
rights
they're-
of passage. All rights of passage. In fact, what's interesting, and not a lot of people know this, but I can find the information and I'll post it on Twitter later. I'll tweet it out. Interestingly enough, and Jeff Bezos, obviously, because he knew what was coming, he had the opportunity to go ahead and purchase several 100,000 more Amazon vans, get them all decaled and ready to go ahead of November 2019. They were all a massive new fleet ready to go. How did he know that he was going to need those?
Well, and go ahead, Freddie.
Well, they knew it started as COVID-1, then it started as COVID-2, and this is like
Yep.
the early 2000s. And so everybody, like I said, thinks it came out in 1900. And then that they ran out of numbers, and that's why they started going to the Greek letter, Alpha, Delta. You know, it's all the way up to like H. I believe it's halfway through the Greek alphabet already.
Yeah, they have no intention on this ever ending. They're
No.
going to slow walk this out for as long as it takes to continually uploading these vaccines, because what's really in these vaccines? And we've got so many confirmed reports of graphene oxide and other inorganic things that have no business going into a human body. We're seeing a lot of funky side effects. We know it crosses the blood-brain barrier. We know there's a massive level of cognitive dissonance based on what's taken place with the media, the narrative, the overall societal shift that's taken place with the division, with the politics. Everybody's sort of taken one side of the fence or the other. Not a lot of people hang on the fence anymore and sort of like, watch the ball go back and forth. It's like you're either, you're planted on one side or the other. And sadly enough, if you're planted on that side that can't discern what we're actually seeing take place, you're completely shut down and you cannot be reasoned with. You cannot even question it. You can't even entertain the fact that the evidence is right in front of you and you're just in shutdown mode. So how did this all transpire? How did this come to be? How did these people come up with this World Economic Forum, this crazy idea of this dystopia that we're sort of skidding right into with everybody AI? That's why they want us eating, soy products and, conserving beef and limited. We're not going to need it. We're not going to need it. They don't have any intention on keeping us around, once we're aged out, if we even age after we become AI. I mean, do they just shut us off? Useless. Let the next, is that how they keep the population so tightly controlled? What does this look like? Does anybody even know? Have we gotten that far?
It's the culling of the herd, and it's happened throughout humanity. And then look up the Georgia Stones that got started. They started being built in 79 and in 81. There's 6 stones in 8 different languages. But yeah, it kind of ties to, COVID. Do we know who
put those there?
Population control.
Yep. Do we know who put those there? I know of them.
No,
I've seen photos of them. I don't know where in Georgia they are. Nobody knows who put them there.
Just north of Atlanta.
Okay.
But but nobody knows it's a group that funded it, and so nobody can pinpoint it. Even I can't find it.
Wow. And I know people have seen them because there are legitimate photos of them. I've seen them, and it's, they want to change the language that we speak. They want to keep the population under X number. They're going to create this sort of one world religion, one world government. And that's what it's all about. And so clearly somebody placed them there. Why there? What does it have to do with why there? What's going on? What else happens there? And, just north of Atlanta, you said, and we know there's a CDC in Atlanta. I wonder if is there a correlation there?
There's a lot of federal offices in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and I think what's also important for people to know is that what they have done and what they are doing, and Klaus Schwab is very, very haughty about this, is that he is basically grooming people to fulfill what he wants to do and have basically what he called elite. He's an elite human, and they look at themselves that way. They are elite. We are not. And they want us by 2030 to have nothing and be happy. And it's really interesting. So what they have done is with these schools is they get these young people. And when you go and you look at their website and you look at some of the stuff that they've published and the videos that they've made, it sounds beautiful. It sounds like they truly want to help. And correct me if I'm wrong, Freddie, but they truly want to, help equity, and they want to get into the cities that are, not able to have good health care. And, it's all about, taking care of somebody that, is in a situation where they can't really help themselves. But that is so far from what they're doing.
Real quick, while you're on that topic, because I definitely want to add to that, the way that I'm seeing this walk out, just from a psychological standpoint, with this CRT that we're seeing and the indoctrination with this, you can be whatever you want to be. You can be an object, you can be a cat, a dog, whatever, and then we look back at transhumanism, and it's almost like they're definitely going after our kids. They're certainly targeting them, saying no genders allowed. You can be whatever gender you want to be, because in transhumanism world, there is no male, there is no female, there is no procreation, there is no natural evolution. There is only selection and automation of what they want. And so they're trying to, of course, go, and I call it a pruning event. They're certainly trying to pluck off the older generation that is costing millions of dollars in Medicare, Medicaids, the health insurances, the trust and everything else that the government and the federal government has to pay out to keep this population sustained and alive. And it's almost like they're squeezing them now as tight as they can with this inflation, and there's no market adjustment for their, bottom dollar of what they're living off of. So they're losing their minds over that as well. That's another point of contention, but you see this almost pruning event happening now. So you've got a lot of the older adult population, COVID-19, they're the vulnerable. Then you see the middle adult generation that are sort of now being squeezed out as well. And a lot of these vaccine injuries are taking place with cardiac stuff, with neurological stuff. And so there's this drive towards our children, and they got a tight grip hold of these. These teachers aren't letting in whatsoever. They shut down parents at meetings. They're really trying to, overcome parents' rights and say, no, we're going to vaccinate you on the side. You don't need a parental consent or anything like that. They're trying to create, form children's minds. They're so formidable at this age. They're forming their minds and trying to get them on this idea that, they don't need to be assigned a gender. It was wrong to be assigned a gender, and there's nothing wrong with pedophilia and all these very bizarre things. And it's got a lot of people shaken up, confused, but nobody's really zeroing in on what exactly is happening on that. So that's what I wanted to say regarding that whole situation.
Well, and what also is interesting, they had on their website this, and it's a bunch of teenagers, probably, I don't know, like 15, 16. It said, should the age of consent be lowered to 13 or less? Now, this is on the World Economic Forum. I'm not making this up. How age of consent laws may be infringing on human rights. What are we doing? So what for somebody who, just is understanding this as a mom, we have seen an attack on our children. And I think that it is very incredibly important that everybody who is watching this that has kids start researching this, because they are starting to take over our education. And how are they doing that? They are infiltrating these people into positions of administrators, principals, school counselors, teachers, and all of this. These people have been trained. They are under this, regime, if you will. Am I losing my light?
It's a cult.
It's scary. It is, honestly, it's kept me up the last couple of nights simply because, what's the end game with this? And I know that, there's a lot of speculations and theories out there. We know they want to get digital IDs. We know that they want like a social credit score. We know that they have this global digital currency that they want. All of these hidden agendas have actually been put in measures through COVID. And COVID was just the way to get in. Like he said, is we're never going to lose a good, catastrophe. We're going to benefit off it. And that's what they've done.
Yeah.
And what's sad is you can see how the players in this have been able to change laws, change rules. One thing I came on tonight is, and I highly suggest everybody look at this. It's called 4 Masks for the number 4 all. And they were able to get the CDC to change the regulations about kids and wearing masks. And he is a guy who is a WEF alumni. And that's what they're doing. So they get into these positions and then all of a sudden they have, this unbeknownst power to go in and change. And I'm telling you, this digital ID is really scary to me because they literally want to be able to access our health records, all our treatments. They want to monitor our devices and our phones. But they make it sound amazing. Like you can do it all in one spot. Your passports, your car registration. Why do you need to know all of that? First of all, everything, who your kids are, all their information is linked to your information. And I mean, they literally said you can book vacations through customs and everything with this digital ID. But what people aren't realizing about this digital ID is that is how they have to get in with the vaccine. And that was their only way. As far
And
as
I guess for me, and the way I look at it, from now moving forward, the 3,000 foot view looks like this to me. Why are all of these mega corporations and these large companies that have thousands and thousands of employees or even hundreds of employees, forcing and mandating these vaccines when never in the history of, any non-healthcare, business entity, employer of any sort, have they ever even asked for a flu vaccine? And they, they merely suggested it, but now it's being mandated. So what do they have? What do they stand to gain? What has been offered to these people looking forward to sustain their corporation? Because certainly they're not going to go, no, we're going to force this vaccine. And if they have an injury or a side effect, an adverse effect, or they die, oh, well, I mean, they're completely exempt from it. So really, what do they stand to gain? Because, if we're meant to depopulate, and we're going to we're going to be downsizing, I mean, that would look bad for them. But then at the same time, if you sort of go over that, and what they're considering is, are we looking at a slave class being constructed now? We're looking at a slave class. Do they stand to gain workers that don't require to make a lot of money because they don't need to own anything, and they'll be happy about that, and they won't require a lot of food for sustenance, and they're not going to have this mega longevity of a life anyway because they'll be turning your computer chip off when you're a useless tool now, right? Is that what we're thinking? Am I going too far? Freddie, am I going too far? Is that what I'm seeing? Freddie, are you awake? Are you there?
No,
He's captivated by it.
I don't know if
sorry.
I was nodding yes.
Oh, I didn't see it. What do you think about that? Is that what you're seeing too? That's sort of what my brain does when I start really taking all of this into consideration and trying to look at the scope outward. That's what I want to know.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. You're correct, and it sucks to go that way. And like Summer said, your mind just like,
it's too much, right? It's too much. Somebody dump a cold bucket of water and wake me up.
And to go back to like the COVID, the Emergency Act, and to be able to do the jab and the shot, and to, like you said, they didn't mandate flu shots.
Nope. Or hepatitis
And you know
A
how
or B.
so in the States is through OSHA.
Yeah.
And that's where that determination came from, of any employer that has over 100 employees has to have them. Why the 100?
But
I know.
But OSHA shouldn't have any business with that. OSHA is only meant to protect respiratory from inorganic particulate, or hearing conservation. So there's, and I have OSHA certifications, by the way. So never in the history of OSHA did they ever mandate a medication for, it's safe and effective for every single person to take. No exclusions, no exemptions, no religious, no medical. Everybody gets it. Is that the same as saying everybody gets peanut butter? We don't care if you're allergic to it. You can have it. It's safe for everybody. It's safe and effective. It's peanut butter. I mean,
Well, and I think it's also important for everybody watching and listening to realize that the Great Reset equals Build Back Better.
that's right. And that's where
It's
he coined
all
it
over.
from.
Yep. It's
That's
a
where he
plan.
coined it
It's
from.
a global plan. And that's exactly what it means. They are trying to reset our economy. I mean, they're crashing our economy so that they can then come in and just, I mean, I don't even like this. This can take us in so many different directions when it comes to that, which, you know, I think, Lisa, we've talked about having this as a little bit of a series, if you will, maybe doing a
Yeah.
couple more shows where we can really dive into the nitty gritty of, you know, behind the scenes and who these key players really are.
And how many, it's so multifaceted, because if you take a look at the World Economic Forum, you have all of these sort of subgroups that fall
Yep.
underneath, and they're all sort of, it's like looking at Congress. They're all assigned certain duties and tasks. Like, we've got the same thing happening with the World Economic Forum. And how is the World Health Organization so tightly knitted and wound into this as well with their Build Back Better?
And they are.
They're
So
also Build Back Better.
They're really big into this. The WHO, also the Bill Gates Foundation, which that's a show we need to get an expert on about what that foundation is. That foundation is, oh my gosh, like that will terrify you. And yet here, I mean, this is the thing too, is who elected these people? Nobody. These are just people that have way too much time on their hands. They have a lot of money and they just think it's okay to mess with our lives. And they want to play God, if you will. They, you know, they don't believe in God, but they believe that they have the ultimate authority to come in and jack up our lives. And I say, screw you. You are messing with the wrong moms. Like, we're coming out. And I want every mom, that is going to be my challenge, is that I want every mom and dad on here to start researching this and looking into how they are affecting not just your life, but what will be the lives of your children, because they literally do not want anything that was post-COVID to be the same. And he says that in the foreword of his book. I also recommend people read that book. And then there's another book by Glenn Beck, love him or hate him. I mean, he's done a lot of research on this. It's also called The Great Reset. And I say, everybody start diving in, because the more you know, the more you can educate someone else who doesn't. Because that's,
So
I mean,
true.
thanks to Freddie and other people, that's how I've, you know, started to get down here.
There's so many people that want to rebuke this topic and think it is tinfoil hat. It is, you know, the conspiracy theory, you know, highest top level, you know, conspiracy theory. But listen, I mean, we just heard it straight up on Joe Rogan. Who was the guy's name? I don't remember the guest name, and I feel bad about that. But
I literally just listened to him again today. That was probably one of the most profound interviews. What an incredible life. In fact, I didn't even know that he has a show, and I am going to follow it. And I know I will jack up his name.
Was it Jordan Peterson or Dr.
No, it is.
No, he was just on Rogan like in the past 4 days, I believe is what it was, right?
It is Majid. It's Maajid Nawaz. Everybody needs to be looking him up. We only have a few more minutes before we close. And Freddie, thank you very much for coming on and just reinforcing some of this information. I want to close with just saying that this is something that everybody needs to be very concerned about. not, alarmed, but we have the opportunity. Somehow we can stop this. This is not okay. What they want to do is, and how they're going about it, who they're using. If we can start exposing these people, because trust me, it is not just a liberal movement. There are, Tulsi Gabbard, she was just at CPAC. Dan Crenshaw is running for Texas State Senate. And these are people that are a part of this, whether they admit it or not. It's on the website. I don't believe he's lying. They don't want you to know they're affiliated, but you need to know. And I am telling you, get down to the nitty gritty. Who's in agriculture? Find out these positions that are for education. All of these things are going to play a huge role in where we go moving forward. But if we can start taking them out one by one with these elections coming up, I think that we can save what they're trying to do. And it's all starting to fall apart. It really is.
I think it's going to be a lot more than just exposing them. We've already seen that did not work in Canada. I think we need to become one gigantic think tank, and we really need to identify the most adequate solution for flipping this thing completely upside down. Freddie,
and
thank you so much
don't
for
get
coming
distracted. In. Just remember, everything that's going on is a distraction. Keep your eye on the prize.
That's right.
Keep your eye on what this vaccine is, where they're going. Just because they're ending mandates, just because they're saying this, let me tell you, that's just a segue into something else, which we're going to talk about in a couple weeks.
Yes. Eyes forward, stay focused. Let's talk about next week real quick.
Next week, we have a very special guest, Dr. Mary Bowden. I am so excited is going to be on our show, and she is going to be talking about everything from what she has seen from the 2,000 COVID patients that she has had to work with, to her getting fired, to her suing, and to where she's, helping all of us go in the future with this. So Dr. Mary Bowden will be with us, and Texas Girl, Mary Beth.
Texas Girl. She's going to be our guest with Dr. Mary Bowden next week, next Thursday. Catch us March 3rd, Thursday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern Central Time. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys.
We're definitely going to be, this is a to be continued topic because we certainly cannot tie this all in a 1 hour episode. Freddie, I hope you'll join us again when we, dive right back into this topic, because I'm certain you have more to add to this.
In spaces. Yeah. That is something that, we need to start talking about more and holding forums on this and what other people know and what they can share. But I do want to say to everybody watching to stay on, not our channel, but go over to Alpha's, because he has some incredible guests lined up for tonight. And I'm super excited.
Which is why we're closing super fast.
Texas.
Yep. Alpha's going to be taking over just as soon as we're done. So with that, I will say good night. Thank you, Summer. Thank you, Freddie. It's been a very enlightening hour, and we have a lot more to cover on this.
Yes,
so
we do.
We'll pick it back up again for sure. Go ahead.
We'll see you next week.
All right. Peace out, guys.
Bye, guys.